Hello and welcome to a Player 2 Quick Play video. My name is Ken and today we'll be looking at Twilight Struggle. This game was recently released just probably about a few days ago on Steam. But the game itself has actually been out for a long time. What came out on Steam was a digital port of a board game that was originally released in 2005. So what we're going to do is look at this game, look at how the digital port has been done. We'll take a look at some of the rules of this game. We'll play through a few turns and rounds, maybe, probably not a few turns, but we'll play through a little bit, and then maybe that will give you a better idea of what this game is about. So, as you can see, we are in turn 3, round 5, with 2 rounds remaining. 2 rounds remaining for this particular turn. So I'm just going to click continue here in the bottom left, and we'll go into it and take a look. So, now we are looking at the map of the world. And you can see there is USA on the left-hand side and USSR on the right-hand side. So that gives you a quick indication of what this game is about. This game is set in the Cold War period between 1945, post-World War II, up until 1990, when the Cold War ended. This is about the two superpowers vying for control and influence over a number of countries across the world, and it's a push and pull. There's a constant tug of war between the two sides. You're influencing this country, you're performing coups in others, and you're affecting the events of history. So let's take a look here. We've got USA, we've got Central America, South America on the left, we've got Africa, Middle East, Europe up here in the middle, and then you've got Southeast Asia and Asia on the right hand side. And you see lots of different numbers across the various countries. I'm going to zoom in here so that we can take a look at Europe. Now, let's look at, say, Austria for the moment. You'll notice that there is a number 2, a blue 2 on a white background on the left of the box listed that's indicated here. That's listed Austria. You've got a red number 2 on a white background on Austria on the right hand side, and you've got a number 4, a white 4 on a black background. So what this means is, in order to gain control of a country, each player, this is a 2-player game, each player must be able to put an influence that is more than the other side by a minimum of the number that's specified in the little black box. So, at this stage, one or the other parties must have 6 influence on one side and 2 influence on the other side for the player with the 6 influence to gain control. So there must be a difference, a minimum difference of the number indicated in the black square. So if you look at just down south, Italy, you have a number that is 2 over there in the top right-hand corner of Italy, of the little box. And you see that there is a 3 below there, a yellow 3 on a red background. And that means that this particular country is currently under Soviet control. If we move over to the just a little bit northwest of Italy, we're looking at France. You'll see that the small number indicates 3, and you see a white number 3 on a blue background, indicating that the USA has control of France at this present point. So, throughout the rounds, you're playing both sides. You're trying to influence these countries. You're trying to put down points here and affect the alignment of these countries to go one way or the other. So that's the very, very most basic purpose of this game, is to gain control. And as I zoom out, you can see in Europe I don't have control of very many countries. I've got France and UK and bits of influence across West and Eastern Europe. You'll notice that the USSR has control over Poland, Italy, and Portugal. Coming down, you can see that the USSR, the Soviets, have got a much stronger presence in Central America than I do. They've got 3 controlled countries, and I've only got 1 uncontrolled presence there. They've got more control in Africa as well, a stronger presence, and I'm on the verge of losing Asia to the Soviets as well. And that's not unusual for this particular game. So, how do we then put influence points? Now, this is where the game gets a little bit interesting. You'll notice here in the bottom middle that there are a number of cards. Click on that. So we've got a card, it's named Nasser, and you will notice on the top left hand corner, there is a red star with a number 1 in it. That's the name of the card, Nasser, and there is an effect. Add 2 USSR influence in Egypt. Remove half, rounded up, of the US influence in Egypt. Remove from play if used as an event. So, that's interesting because cards are used in 2 primary ways. You either use them for their influence points here, which lets you put the number of influence indicated by the number here, or you resolve the event that is here in the middle. Now, usually you get to choose one or the other. You get to choose either to use it for influence points or to use it for the effect. Now, if you happen to be playing a card of the opponents, and cards are distributed to players at the start of each turn, if I play a Soviet influence card, so with the red star, the effect that is in the middle, the event, will take place regardless of whether I want to or not. It will happen. So it is in my disadvantage to play a opponent's card, but I will have to do it because I must play a card during my turn. I might pick up some American cards, I might pick up some Soviet cards, I might pick up some neutral cards at the start of every turn, and I've got to play them. And if it was a US card or a neutral card, I will have to choose between whether it's the influence or whether it's the event that I want to happen. If it's an opponent's card, I will have to play it. The event will kick off regardless of what I use the card for. So, I've picked this card. Let's take a look at the other one, because I've got 2 cards to choose from here. Blockade. Unless a US player immediately discards a 3 or more value operations card, eliminate all US influence in West Germany. So that card is going to hurt very badly, because for 1 point, let's look at the top left hand of the card, I get 1 influence point. But if I do not discard a card which has a value of 3, in which I don't, because I've only got Nasser, which is a 1 pointer, Blockade, which is a 1 pointer, and I do have a 4 pointer card, but I can't use it right now. If I don't play a card that is 3 points or more, I will lose all influence in West Germany. And if we were to look at West Germany right now, I have got 3 points of influence there. I'm on the verge of taking control of West Germany. So this card that eliminates all US influence there will really, really hurt me very badly. So let's play Nasser. Now, you will notice that there are a number of options here to the right-hand side. Resolve event first, place influence, realignment roles, coup attempts. Now, what should we do with this card? Normally, when we play an opponent's card, we will have to do one of these 3 things: influence, realignment, or coups, and then the event is resolved. If we want to, we can actually choose to have the event resolved in the first instance before we decide what we want to do with it. So in this case, I'm going to take a look at Egypt. Egypt, I have no US influence there. It adds 2 influence points to gain control. And no US influence. So it really doesn't affect me all that much if I were to resolve the event first. So I'm just going to do that. Click on resolve event first. You'll notice that Egypt now has, Soviets now have control over Egypt because I've given them 2 influence points. And now you will notice that they have the yellow 2 on the red background, indicating that Egypt is now under the control of the Soviets. So I've used that card. Let's decide what we want to do. You know what? I'm just going to do the basic thing. I'm going to place influence. You'll notice at the top middle it says place 1 influence, and I can place influence in any of the glowing squares there. Generally, areas that I can place influence in is in a country that already has one of my influence points, or to an adjacent country to any country that has one of my influence points. So you'll notice that here in Panama, I have 1 influence point there, so I can put another point there and gain control of Panama. Or I could place a point in Colombia and gain control there because it only has a 1 to establish control. And it's adjacent to a country in which I have some sort of presence. But you know what? I'm just going to do the basic thing. I'm going to gain control of West Germany, and I end my turn. Now we're in turn 6, final round of turn 3. We're in round 6, sorry, the final turn. Oh, okay. So what happened there, you will notice, was that the opponent played one of their cards. Let me see if I can call it up. You know what, I can. Let's move into my turn now. Let's go into, see. This is where the game log is very useful. All the way to the bottom of the screen, you'll notice that it shows which card each player has played. I'm playing against the computer AI at this present point. Turn 3, USSR, action round 4. Turn 3, US, action round 4. And that one was 6 just a moment ago. Turn 3, USSR, action round 6. We can see event. De Gaulle leads France. That's the name of the card. And US -2 influence in France. Oh, that's not good. And +1 influence, USSR. That is not a good card. Now, it's my turn to play a card. Unfortunately, I've only got 1 card to play. Oh, that is not good. I will have to resolve the event first because I want to be able to see if I can do something with it. Let's see. I'm going to try I'm just going to put another point of influence there. So what happened there was I played a blockade. And because it was an opponent's event, it will happen, and it removed all of my influence in West Germany. But I want to make sure that I gain control of West Germany again, so I placed 1 influence point into West Germany. So that is the end of turn 3. What it says here is current mil ops level 4, current DEFCON level 3, victory points lost 0. And that says the same on both sides. What that means is another mechanic in this particular game is that the game forces you to take military actions. You have to, otherwise you stand the risk of losing victory points. And the number of military operations that you can take is limited by the DEFCON level at that particular time. The game starts at DEFCON 5, which means most of the world is at peace. It can go down to DEFCON 1, which means the world is in nuclear war and everything is destroyed, and the player that pushed the game into DEFCON 1 is responsible for, it will be the loser because they are responsible for initiating nuclear war. So the mechanic is that you have to perform a number of military operations equal or more to the current DEFCON level. So if it's DEFCON 4, for example, you have to do 4 or more military operations, well, 4 or more points worth of military operations, and different cards will give you different military op points. Alright, we're going into the next turn. So we can see mid-war. So what happened earlier was that in early war, the Soviets have a strong advantage, and this is intended to mimic the passage of history during that particular period. And we're going into the mid-Cold War, where there is a bit more of a balance. And then as we go, if the US can last until to the late war, there are a lot more cards that come in that benefit the Americans. So it's unsurprising that if we look into on the map just now, that the Soviets have at the start of every turn, DEFCON goes back up to 4, indicating that the world is just a little bit more peaceful than the previous turn. But of course, the politicking done by both USSR and the US will render the world very unsafe. Mutually assured destruction. Now, okay. What was I saying before? I don't remember now. What was I saying before? Oh, yes. So, I was saying that that the cards in early war strongly influenced strongly advantage the Soviets, and in the late war the cards advantage the US. So for the player playing as the Soviets, you will want to come out strong as possible and gain control in as many territories as possible. In the early Cold War, the US is just fighting back waves of communism. You're just fighting back the Reds. You're just trying to you're just trying to stem the flow of communism sweeping across Asia, sweeping across Central and South America and the Middle East. That's all you're trying to do. In mid-war, it's a bit more of a balanced fight, and in late war, the US machine starts coming into its own and starts, really putting its flag in the sand. So we're going to turn 4 now. Let me bring up a couple of other things whilst we're here looking at turn 4. We are looking, you see, in the top middle, you've got DEFCON. It'll show you DEFCON and MilOps track there. We will see that that we are currently in turn 4, and these are the cards these are some of the things which are removed and things. They can see that the VP, the victory points, is currently in favor of the Soviets. They are 14 points ahead. We've got a space race, and I'll talk about space race later. But right now, at the start of every turn, there will be one event that will kick off, regardless. This is to force players. This is another mechanic that forces players to play some card to make sure that something good happens, right? Well, not something good, but something happens. As each turn goes along, something must happen. That was the situation in the Cold War, and that's the situation here. Now, let's see. I have got the China card, which is a neutral card. It affects both the US and the USSR. I can use it for 4 points of operations, and if I use all of those operation points in Asia, I will get +1. And at the end of turn 10, whoever's holding onto this card gains 1 victory point. So that's always very good at seizing control of Asia. Let's see here, mid-war U2 incident. If UN intervention is played later this turn as an event, either by the US or USSR, gain 1 additional VP. So that's not too bad. SALT negotiations. Improve DEFCON. A minor die. That's not too bad. Let's see what else it's got here. Cancels NATO for West Germany. This is grain sales. Play it or return it. No cards are returned. Let's see. Lots of different things. Lone gunman. Player. We will bury you. This is a painful one. It gives me 4 operations points, but unless UN intervention is played as an event on the US player's turn's next round, USSR gains 3 victory point. That is painful. All right. Socialist governments. Now, we will have to play. We'll have to play a card now. This is probably the least painful one because I've got lots of Soviet cards in my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 Soviet cards and 1 neutral card, 2 neutral cards, and 2 American cards. And my strongest card, the card that gives me the most influence points for this turn, is a Soviet card. That is not good. So, Western Europe, removing no more. That's terrible. Remove US influence in Western Europe by a total of 3 influence points, removing no more than 2 per country. That is painful, but not too bad because I don't have control of that many countries in Western Europe anyway. It will weaken my presence there, but it's not too bad. So I actually might hold on to that because it's not bad. That is actually not bad. So I might do that one instead. Add 2 USSR influence in both the Southeast African states and Angola. Now let's see. Improve DEFCON 1 level. The player may conduct operations as if they played a 4 ops card. That is really good. So the opponent, the AI, is now deciding what it wants to do with its 4 operations points. Like we said earlier, one of the most basic things is to add influence to countries. You can attempt coups, which is a die roll, or you can attempt, they just put all 4 points into Austria, which is terrible. Okay, round 1 of turn 4. The USSR always goes first. And now they're deciding what they want to do. Now, whilst the Soviet AI is deciding, I think it's the end of turn. Yep, they've just decided what they want to do. All offer the operations card. Let's see, what are they doing? Okay. So this is what it did. This is what the AI did. It's used this particular card, and it's chosen to use the card for its operations points rather than the event, and because it's neutral card, the player gets to choose one or the other. So the AI has chosen to use the 4 operations points and attempted to make a coup, a military coup in Panama. Operation summary: total operations 4, coup defense is 4, and military ops gained 4 because the card is a 4-point card. It's tried to attempt a coup in the country of Panama, and the defense against coup is twice the number that is indicated in the little box to the top the right hand corner of Panama. So that's 2, so the defense is 4. And when you roll a dice, it's rolled a 2, and operations 4, it's rolled a 6. So 6 points reduces. I believe the mechanic is that it will reduce my influence in the country and increase its own influence in the country. So it's reduced my influence by 1, and then it's increased its own influence by 1 as well. But it has not gained control of Panama just yet. If it had rolled higher, 3 or 4 or 5, or a 6, it would likely have gained control of Panama. And every time you do a military operation, you potentially knock the DEFCON down a level, because you've been you've been warmongering around the world. Okay, US turn, my turn now. First round, turn 4. Let's see, what do we do? Now, another question you might have is, how do you score points? Because as I've said before, we are currently the USSR is ahead by 14 victory points. Now, the victories work like this. Both players are trying to work up to 20 points, 20 points in victory points, or at the end of 10 turns, whoever has the most, whoever is in the lead will win the game. So you're either trying to last until turn 10 and still maintain the lead, or just outright get 20 victory points, or cause the other player to kick off a nuclear war. That is how you win. The victory points are counted by a difference between the two. It's a tug-of-war system. So if I have 3 victory points and the USSR has 2 victory points, the difference means I am in the lead by 1 victory point. Now, because the current victory point indicator shows that the Soviets are 14 points ahead, it means that over the last 3 to 4 turns, every time we have come up against each other in terms of calculating victory points, the USSR has led. So I've given the Soviet player 14 points in difference between the points that I have gained and the points that the Soviets have gained. How do you gain victory points? You gain victory points by playing a victory point card. There is a scoring card which comes in within your hand. And right now, I do not have any scoring points, which means I cannot score points. Or, well, I can score points, but I cannot determine the turn, the round in which the scoring will occur. It is very likely that the Soviet player might have a scoring card in its hand. They might have more than one, and they will get to determine when scoring happens. The scoring must happen. They must play the card within this turn, within the 7 actions that we've got. And each of the scoring card will be region specific. So there will be a Europe scoring card, or an Asia scoring card, or an Africa scoring card. So I don't know which regions are going to score. I'm quite confident that the other player has at least 1, if not more, scoring cards, because the deck of cards is not very thick. If you're looking at the physical board game, you will know that the deck of cards is actually not that thick. And because it is in mid-war, we know that we have the cards from early war, the starting deck of cards, and we have just added a number of mid-war cards to the deck. We know that the late war cards are not added yet. So just by the sheer sort of calculation of mathematics, we can think by chance, by odds, there is a very high chance. I was given 8 cards, the opponent was given 8 cards. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I was given 10 cards. Sorry, I was given 10 cards. The other player was given 10 cards. It's 20 cards out of, I think, a deck of 40 or 50 cards. It's very likely that the Soviets have got a scoring card, and they have to play it sometime this turn, but we don't know when, and we don't know where as well. So right now, all I'm doing is trying to shore up my control of the region. So what can I do? Let's see. I could play a card. I could play a card that will give me more control over Europe. I could play a card to give me a presence in Central and South America. I can play a card which will give me I can play cards to wrest control of Asia back. So as you can see, I'm losing Indonesia, I'm losing Malaysia. I've already lost Philippines, Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, and North Korea is a threat right up there as well. So communism is spreading through the former colonial countries, the former colonial states of Southeast Asia. And Middle East is quite balanced, although this is a tough one. If I play this card, you know what, let's see if I can play. I've got China card, I can use that. If I use the China card, it's a 4-pointer, but if I use all of the operation points in Asia, I get +1, which is 5 points, which is actually not bad. You know what? Let's do that. Let's place influence. Now, it takes 1 point to place an influence in a country that is not controlled. It takes 2 operations points to put 1 influence in a country that is controlled by the opponent. So I've got 4 influence right now. I'm going to put... Oh, I'm not adjacent there, so I need control in Malaysia. I put 1 in Malaysia. I can put two more in Malaysia, so I've put a total of 3. I've gained control there. I'm going to redo that. I'm going to try that again. Place influence. 1 in Malaysia. I'm going to put... that's actually not a good use of that card because the Soviets have got very strong control in Thailand and Vietnam. I may actually want to do realignment roles instead. Now, we briefly talked about coup earlier. Realignment roles are similar, but they do not affect. Say this is why this game is... Right, sorry, I just clicked on cards. These are the cards removed from game. These are the cards that have been discarded in the discard pile, and these are the cards that are in my hand right now. Salt negotiations are pretty good. Now let's see. Nixon plays the China card. I don't need that right now. Grain sales to Soviets. Alright, I'm going to take a chance by playing the event on this card because I get to choose 1 card from the USSR hand and I can play it or return it. So if I happen to play a good card, if I happen to pull a good card from the USSR, from the Soviet, I might be able to do something. Okay, good. Yes, I will actually play that. I will. So I've pulled this card from the Soviet's hand. Add 2 US influence in Central America or South America. That's actually not bad. So I'm going to place 2 influence now. One, 2. There we go. Now it's the Soviet player's turn. As you can see, this game, it's not a quick playing game. It can take quite a while. I played 1 full match the other night, and it took me about an hour and a half. It's not terribly bad, I guess. Let's see. What is the Soviet player doing? It's played an American card, so that event will kick off because the Soviet player has played an American card. So that's good for me. Let's see. There seems to be a bit of a bug down there. It's not showing me the updated turn there. Let's see. What do we do next? What do we do next? Oh no, it's taken over Malaysia. Alright, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna resolve event first, bringing DEFCON down. I'm going to use a coup and attempt to wrest control. Wrest control of Egypt or Asia? No, I can't do Asia. Now, again, another mechanic to layer on top of the many mechanics that are here in this game already. As DEFCON goes lower and lower in terms of its numbers, various regions start to get locked off from being you being able to play coup attempts. It's to model the behavior of, as the world gets more and more anxious, both sides get a little bit more careful in terms of its politicking, its realpolitik, so that they don't want to tip over the balance of power. Now, so now that I'm trying to pick a coup country, it's letting me pick coups in Middle East, Africa, and Central and South America. So I'm going to try Middle East. That's probably the best there. I'm going to do Syria. Now, I'm going to try a coup in Syria. Operations 4, coup defense 4, because the target was Syria has number 2 for its influence, for its control. So its coup defense is 4 multiplied by 2, and the result preview will show what will happen if I roll a dice. Hopefully I roll a high number. High numbers are good. Yeah, there we go. Success. I rolled a 4. It's given me control over Syria, so that's not bad. Again, Soviets thinking, the AI can take a bit of time sometimes. Now, you can play this online with another human player if you want to. You will need a Playdeck account. You can play against other... Space Race. Interesting. You can play against other human players. It does offer asynchronous play, so that you can play a turn, walk away, turn it off, send your turn over to your opponent, your friend or somebody else who you've been matchmade with. They will play a turn. You'll be notified. It's kind of like the old play by mail, play by email practices. It goes back to that type of play. So asynchronous play, multiplayer online, which is good. I haven't yet played with any humans as yet. I've only been playing against the AI. Just trying to get myself familiar with the cards, familiar with the flow of the game, familiar with the best use of operations points and events, and when is the best time to play what card. Space Race, that's what we're looking at right now. I'm just going to finish explaining this other mechanic, and then we can probably call it, I think. Space Race allows you to put one card into the Space Race without kicking off the event, regardless of whose card that is. So it is a very, very good way for me to get rid of a Soviet card. Very, very good way for me to get rid of a card for the opponent. I'd throw it into Space Race. There are some benefits as you go up the Space Race, but it allows you to do that. Why would you want to do that? One, there are benefits to gain from space race, and two, it is an opportunity to get rid of a card. You can play a card and not have the event kick off, especially if that event is particularly damaging and to yourself, or if the card will escalate tensions elsewhere. So this is what the Soviet player has done. On its turn, it's thrown this card, Puppet Governments. Let's take a look. US may add 1 influence in 3 countries that currently contain no influence from either power. So that's actually super useful for me. As we can see, there's still lots of countries in the world that still has no influence on them. I could have had 1 influence in 3 different countries. So that would have been very useful to me. The Soviet AI has decided that it wants to junk that. It's throwing it into the space race. It's not kicking off. The event is not kicking off, and it's not using the operations points. It just wants to get rid of that particular card. Let's see. Round 3, turn 4, 5 rounds remaining. Let's see. Now, if we can use the SALT negotiations, I will play I will resolve event first and commit to that. So that particular card will remove 3 of my influence in Western Europe, no more than 2 per country. I'm just gonna do that first so that I can see what the Soviet player will be doing. It's removed my influence in West Germany. It's removed my influence in, I think Italy. That seems to be the case. I am going to now do realignment rolls. And realignment rolls are another type of card. What that does is it allows countries to reduce the opponent's influence. So what happened there is there's a +1 modifier because I had adjacent countries under my control, as did the Soviets, so it's +1/+1. It's a straight die roll comparison. 6. I rolled a 6, the opponent rolled a 2, I've won, and I've removed that 1 influence point from Lebanon, so it's pretty good. I'm going to try rolling in Iran. Ooh. There's a very high chance I might lose 1 there, so that's not good. I'm going to... What about Iraq? No. Israel. Yes, Israel. 27% chance that I might lose 2. 27% chance the opponent might lose 2. So that's not bad. USSR loses 2. Well done. Good. That's what I wanted. So it's given me a good situation there. I've helped to reduce the number of Soviet control in that region. USSR loses 2. Well done. I made 3 realignment rolls in the Middle East region. I have reduced their influence. And let's see what the Soviets do. I'm going to finish this turn. It actually gets quite addictive because you think, oh, the game's a little bit slow moving. I don't know what's happening. I'm just going to click around, do a few things there. And then it starts to build up. You see, oh, let's see, what are they doing? Oh, golly. Oh, there's a bug here that doesn't allow me to see what the... Oh, no. Yeah, it doesn't let me see what happened on turn 4 USSR action round 4 for some strange reason. It's very strange. But I'm just going to finish my turn here. I am going to try and gain control. Place influence for the China card. Place influence, I'm going to do Lebanon. 2 points in Israel. So that's mine. I will put 1 point in Egypt. And that is done. I've established a decent presence in the Middle East. I still do not have control of Asia. That is still very much under Soviet control. The Soviets have got a stronger presence in Africa than I do. I'm slowly building up in Central and South America, but it's hard to say. It's hard to tell which way that will go. We have got another 3 or 4 action rounds to go for the remainder of this turn, and it's very likely that the Soviet player is preparing to score somewhere. And if I had to guess which scoring card it has in its hand, I would say that it has the Asia card, because it's been trying to take control of Asia. It's very likely at this point that I'm going to lose Australia. Australia may be lost to communism and the Soviets. So with that, that is a quick look of Twilight Struggle. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really enjoy this board game. I've played it when it was first released in 2005. Really enjoyed it. I know that it can get quite complex because there are lots and lots of mechanics, one layered over the other. But fundamentally, it is an area control game. 2 players, you're trying to gain control in as many territories as possible. It is a tug of war between both sides. You are trying to establish presence and influence in different parts of the world. If you can get a strong foothold in one of those regions, it allows you then to spread your influence out. It is very thematic. It ties into the theme of the game, Cold War, 2 superpowers fighting over each other. A lot of proxy wars. Both superpowers are not really fighting head to head. It is not an all-out war. It is a cold war. You're fighting through proxies. You're fighting through influence. You are trying to just make sure that just trying to enlarge your sphere of influence. There are words being thrown around during this period of time: mutually assured destruction, appeasement, various other things, like lots of things in this particular period of history, the Cold War. Very strong thematics. The implementation is very good. It keeps track. Aside from this little bug at the bottom that is not letting me see what the turns are, it keeps track of status effects very well. It keeps track of turn order and who's in the front and who's in the lead and what else you need to do and what everything is happening. You don't have to pick up these numbers and swap them around in the physical game. These are actual tokens that you have to swap around every time you try to you increase your influence in one area. You've got to change the number physically, and then it's like, oh, okay, I've got control. You swap another tile in. So there's a lot of bookkeeping that is done by this digital, by the program, by the app. So you don't have a lot of fiddling around. You can concentrate on the meta game of trying to just to win. You're just trying to win. You spend your time thinking and strategizing, and less time with the bookkeeping. You can see very clearly here at a glance that the Americans are not doing well, the Soviets have got strong control around the world, and Australia may very well fall to the Reds. And with that, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you enjoyed this quick look. I hope you will pick up Twilight Struggle. It is a great board game, and it's a really good implementation, translation from an analog to a digital, and that's pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this video, there are more videos and reviews and podcasts up at player2.net.au. My name is Ken. This has been a Player 2 quick play video, and this is Twilight Struggle. Thank you. Bye.